Hi and welcome to this small video where I'm gonna be demonstrating a technique which I use when I usually configure zone-based policy firewalls or ACLs for that matter. What happens is I suffer from I don't know what to call it, but it's just that I can't pay attention to something for a long time, and it's just hard for me to remember stuff. My memory is a little weak. So what I do with the zone-based policy firewalls is because of all the interface pairs, all the zone pairs, all the zone policies, what I do is I've developed a small way in which I remember this stuff. So I'm just going to be posting it in case it'll be helpful to you. So let's get right to it. I'm going to be opening a task, which zone-based policy task, and we're going to be configuring that. I'm just going to be showing you how I represent it in a drawing and how I remember it. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. So here we are with our task. Let's look at task 2.11. Here we can see that we have three security zones: inside, outside, and DMZ for the interface facing R1, R2, and AAA server. Now quickly, let me just draw the topology for you. The topology looks something like this. You have sorry, let me quickly select the pen. Yep, you have R1 here, which is connected over to R3, which is connected to R2. Now R3 is also connected to the AAA server here, and this we usually represent it as the inside. This is the outside, and this is the DMZ zones. Now what we want to do is configure ZBPF between all these zones, and we want to configure it here on R3. Right, now that we have the topology out of the way, let's get into the tasks. Let's look at the first task. Configure three security zones in R3: inside, outside, and DMZ for interfaces facing R1, R2, and AAA server respectively. Just what I said in the video. Now remember, in ZBPF it's always good to consider one more zone along with all the zones which are present there. That's the self zone. The self zone addresses all the traffic which is destined to the router, like routing protocol traffic, management access, etc. So let's quickly head into the diagram, and I'll give you a small I'll show you how I usually configure this. So in my diagram, you can see that I'm not going to be drawing it, I'm just going to be representing it. First, inside, I'll just make the self zone. Alright, and then outside you have the what are the zones again? Inside, outside, and DMZ, right? Inside, outside, and DMZ. Okay, you know what? I'll delete this so that I can hold on. Yep, I just made a little more room for myself. Okay, so there you go. I've represented the four zones, and inside in here we'll be configuring how we're going to be going ahead with this task. Let's go to the second configuration item on our list. The second list says allow R3 to be accessed using SSH and HTTPS from zones outside and DMZ. So from outside and DMZ, just draw the arrow and say SSH, HTTPS. Similarly here, it's going to be okay. Usually what I do in pen and paper is I write it like this. So but here I'm going to just be writing SSH, HTTPS. Okay, so now that we know, and we already know the direction in which we're going to be configuring the zone pair, and we also know what traffic we're going to be inspecting. Let's go into the third configuration. Allow the inside users to use the following protocols when accessing outside: HTTP, FTP, ICMP, DNS, SSH, Telnet, AOL, Instant Messenger. So for inside users accessing the outside network. So what I do is I quickly draw an arc, and then you can write down all the stuff. Say telnet, then HTTP, FTP, ICMP, DNS, SSH, AOL. Yep, that configured everything. Now, the fourth point says account for the AOL messenger using the non-standard port 80 and users connecting to HTTP proxies on ports 3128 and 8080. So what I do is these are the trick configuration items which you have to pay keen attention to. So what I do is, as soon as I draw this, what I do is I just put a small star here. And for this, I'm going to be putting a plus. For the star, I'm going to be saying configure this for non-standard port of these ports here, 3128 and 8080. So I'll be configuring this for 3128 plus 8080. The port 80 is already configured, so I don't have to worry about that. Then for AOL, I'll put a small plus. So I just put the plus here and say account for AOL messenger using the non-standard port of 80. So I just configured this to work on TCP port 80. So now the advantage of this is I don't have to go back to the configuration and the task and read through the tasks. I can just get all the data I want from this simple diagram which I basically draw in real time. Now let's get into the next configuration item here. The fifth one. Allow the outside users to access the servers in the DMZ using HTTP, FTP, DNS, and TACACS. So here we're going to be drawing the protocols which are allowed from the outside to the DMZ zone using HTTP, FTP, and DNS. So outside to the DMZ using HTTP, FTP, DNS, and TACACS plus. HTTP, FTP, DNS, and TACACS plus. Okay, so there you go. You already know the direction, and you have also cleared made the protocols which have to be permitted. Let's get into the next one. The inside user should have the same set of protocols allowed to zone DMZ with the addition of SSH and HTTPS. So for inside access to DMZ, it should be similar to this, but it should also have SSH and HTTPS. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly write AO_D. That means what all protocols that I've configured here, I'm going to be replicating here, along with the two protocols which are SSH and HTTPS. SSH and HTTPS. Okay, so this means I'm going to be including all the protocols I've included between the outside and the DMZ zone pair, along with two more additional protocols of SSH and HTTPS. Let's get into the last one. Preserve IP routing with your configuration and allow the users logged into the router to ping/telnet to outside or DMZ zones. That means from the self zone they should be able to ping or telnet to the outside and DMZ zones. So from the self zone they should be able to ping telnet telnet and limit the users on the subnet 136.1.13.0 on the DMZ server to 10.0.0.0. Okay, these can be represented on the diagram. So the reason why I wanted to show you this is because I personally find it helpful when I'm going to be starting to code, but then for every small doubt I don't have to go back to the configuration task where there are huge chances that I'm going to miss something. Whereas if you draw a small diagram here which hardly takes any time, probably like 10 seconds max, it's not going to take you for long, and you already know the directions in which you're configuring, so you can even test. It's going to be even useful when you test the configuration. Right, for example, I just want to test if this configuration is working, so by just looking at this I know what all protocols to test. I hope you like this, and do let me know if you have any further suggestions to improve this. This is just what works for me, so if this works for you, great.